Hi guys, welcome back to In Case of Econ Struggles. Welcome to another Sunday Stata tip. Today we're continuing to work on the example project, putting all of those skills we've seen in previous Sunday Stata tip videos to use. So today we're doing the data build. Timestamps are below if you would like to jump around. Let's go ahead and get right into it. So here is my folder for the example project. We've talked about folder organization before. Specifically, I'm working in this data folder today, and we've got these 5 raw data files. The goal of this video, of this data build, is we're going to take all these data files, we're going to pull them into Stata. We're going to save them as a .dta file and then eventually merge them all together. As you can see, I've set up my do file, and this is what we're going to be working through today. I've got this README all set up. README super important so that later I can come back and know what I did and any sort of notes on the data build. I've got my paths set up so that it's going to be easier to call files. I've made sure everything is clear and I'm ready to read in my first data set. So let's go ahead and run these first couple lines. Control D. And it's going to start importing this Excel file. Once it's imported this Excel file, we can just do a quick browse to check it out. We can see we've just got entity, code, date, and facial coverings. Now, because I know that I'm going to eventually merge this data, I know I'm going to merge by country name and potentially country code. I'm going to have a day, and then I'm going to have some information in these other columns. So what I'm going to do straight from the get-go is I'm going to decide what I'm going to call each of these variables so that as I go through, I can make sure all the variables are named consistently. And because they will be named consistently, the merge will be much easier later on. So first, I'm going to get rid of case sensitivity by renaming all of these variables to be lowercase. So if I go back into browse, you can see all I've done is I've just lowercased all these variable names. Just very helpful when I'm typing code if I don't have to remember caps. And then I'm just going to go ahead and rename these guys to be that consistent name. I'm gonna go ahead and save this as a .dta because the data is pretty clean and we're done. Now I can go through and do the other data sets. So each one I'm just pulling in, I'm renaming. And then once the rename is complete, I'm going into browse, taking a look, making sure everything looks relatively clean. I'm not super concerned with cleaning everything right now. The reason why I'm not super concerned about cleaning everything right now is because I know that data building is an iterative process, which means that after I'm done doing this data build, I'm going to run some diagnostics on the data, and we'll see that in the next video. The reason why I'm going to run those diagnostics is to see if there's anything funky going on in the data. And I know once I have found anything funky, I'm gonna have to go back and redo some of this data build. So I don't really care if I catch every little issue now because I'm gonna catch it later and I might catch other issues when I'm doing the analysis. Again, data building, iterative process. You're not trying to get it 100% perfect on the first try. You're trying to get it built on the first try so you can do something with it, but again, does not have to be perfect. You can see here I've done the fancy way to do renames where you can do multiple ones in the same line. Might seem strange why I did this line here. If I reread in this guy, what you'll see is that this data set is wide, which means that for every country, it's got GDP going across the top. It doesn't read in the variable names very well, but it read in the label. So I just looked down, saw that 2020 was BM and took the BM variable. So now I'm almost getting to my last data set. Again, just reading them in and saving them. You know how to use temp files, that's also an option, but we're trying to keep it simple. And so now we're about ready to merge. I'm going to read in my initial data set, which is this mass policy data. I'm gonna merge one-to-one country and date using the COVID deaths. And I'm going to do this option, which is generate merge underscore face. Remember that when Stata does a merge, it's going to automatically generate a variable called underscore merge, but I'm going to have many merges and I want to be able to distinguish which merge was which. So if I just generate this merge underscore face, it'll make sure that variable name is merge underscore face. I won't get the issue on this second merge that says, well, variable underscore merge already exists. And again, I can look back at the data and see which observations matched across which data sets, and it'll be really helpful for some data diagnostics later. Now, I have many to one here. Why do I have many to one here? Well, the data set we're using here is daily, but the data set for our GDP is just one observation per country for the whole year. So I just want to take that GDP and merge it onto every row for a given country in that year. And same with population. Now, if I look in the data, if I just do like a sort country date just to take a look here and I pop in, I can see that I've got 2020, but I also have all the way through to 2022. Not interested in 2022, I'm only interested in 2020. So I can just do a keep statement to say keep if year of date is equal to 2020. Now we've done the basic merge. Again, not focused on diagnostics yet. We're really just trying to put this data together and trying to think about other variables that could be useful. One set of variables that instantly comes to mind is that I've got information on cases, deaths, vaccinated and fully vaccinated. And if I've got a small country country like Andorra versus a larger country like the United Kingdom, the number of cases and deaths probably won't make a lot of sense, so I probably want to turn that into a percent of population. Well, I have population, so I can just do this little loop where I generate the percent of those cases or deaths or vaccinations, and that's just going to be equal to the number of cases or deaths or vaccinations divided by the 2020 population. So I'll go ahead and do that. Another variable we said was going to be helpful is to say what was the maximum level or maximum strength of your mask mandate. So I'm just going to do this by sort command, and just the highest mask mandate is the maximum of your mask level. So I'll do that here. Another thing that I think is very useful when you're creating data is to create flags. So I'm going to create a flag for each of those cases, deaths, vaccinated, fully vaccinated variable. And what I want to know is I want to know how many times there's non-missing data for that particular variable for a particular country. So I'm just going to generate a count for that variable, which is just equal to whether or not that variable is missing. And then I can count up the number of days of non-missing data for a given country here. And then I know that there are 366 days in a leap year. 2 of those didn't count. Looks like they didn't collect data on the first or the second. So I can just make a flag which is equal to whether or not the count or the number of days for a country for that variable is equal to the full 364 days. And then it'll tell me how many days I also have for each country for that variable. And then I just did a little sum here. This isn't super useful, so this is more of a data diagnostic for me, so we can take this out. And then we are ready to go. Now, notice that I've run this piecemeal, which is totally fine. I want this to run from start to finish in order, again, to make sure that it runs without issues from the top to the bottom. And that'll just make sure a lot of issues that you might have seen while we're running this in pieces is resolved when we run it fully. So we can see that this ran all the way through. I called this dataset 2020 COVID mass data. So let's go back into our folder explorer and see that I see 2020 COVID mass data. It was saved right now, which makes sense. And now we have an initial data build, and we can start running diagnostics in the next video. So if this was helpful, make sure to like and subscribe. If anything was unclear, comment below. We will see you next time for another case of econ struggles.